In this week's podcast, I speak with Stuart, a US school teacher who has been educating the minds of our next generation for the past 16 years. Stuart has taught in Prague, the Czech Republic, and in South Korea as well. Stuart began in university as an aspiring engineer, but due to the procedural teaching process, he felt he was wasting his time. They were teaching him what to think rather than how to think. So Stuart switched to school teaching. He then majored in psychology, and he has since dedicated his career to teaching children. Stuart's excellence as a teacher has been both eye-opening and truly inspirational for me. Stuart has a strong emphasis on teaching his students how to think over what to think. And this has given me a great sense of optimism for our future generation. We discuss thinking procedurally versus conceptually. We discuss the power of showing a genuine interest in your child's learning. We discuss how children naturally and unconsciously model the behavior of their parents. We discuss why boundaries, rules, and consequences are so important for a child's success. And we discuss a lot more. So I really have a deep respect for Stuart as a father, as a teacher, and as a man. And I really hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. How long have you been a school teacher for?
This is my 16th year.
16th year.
Taught English as a second, or English, business English, basically in Prague to start with. That was 9 or 10 months, and then we went to South Korea for in Prague, Czech Republic.
Wow.
Yep, that was awesome.
Wow.
Well worth it. But they didn't pay as much as we needed at the time, so
Okay.
we went to South Korea, did that for 4 or 5 months. And we taught kindergarten to kids who didn't speak any English, which was really, really fun. And
so I'm guessing, do you speak Korean?
no,
So
I'm
how does that
Haseo.
work?
No, I mean a little bit. At one point I could call for a waiter and say hello and goodbye. And honestly, that was it. I mean, learning kids' names, I could do that fine, but I didn't pick up much. I just weren't long enough to pick up much of the language, unfortunately.
So how does one teach, especially a kindergarten class, with no language? Is it just, do you have like a translator or something?
Nope. Well, okay, so we did. One of the kids' moms worked with us, but it was just complete immersion. I mean, the kids are 5 and 6, and within 3 months, they were putting together pretty complex sentences. We just used pictures and sang songs and did simple games and all that kind of stuff, art, and just used English 100%. And they would teach us a little bit, and it was 100% English from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And they soaked it right up. Amazing.
Yeah, they learn fast, yeah.
Real fast.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really fast. I mean, by the time they left, they were certainly speaking better than even some of the middle school students. They were
just that full immersion.
Yeah, just crushing it out. They had no problem picking it up. It was fun to do. It was worth doing.
I've heard that if you want to learn a new language, go live with it and
just go
get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard too that you're not supposed to think in your native language and then try to translate it into the new language you're learning. That you learn purely as that speaker. So if you're learning Italian, you just try to speak in Italian without saying the Italian word for the English word for this is this, and so it also means that in Italian.
Yeah.
That you just do it in straight Italian or whatever the language you that you pick.
That's what stuffed me up. I always thought in English, and I learned German in primary school.
Yeah.
Early school.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing, actually. Friends of ours in Prague, the girl that friends of ours, she was doing 11th grade chemistry as a Czech speaker in Italian.
Mm-hmm.
So they were actually teaching kids foreign languages, but in other subjects, which I thought was really interesting.
Holy smokes!
And she did fine. She knew 3 languages by the end of high school.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
I mean, We don't do enough of it. Not really.
Yeah,
We
you
should do
don't
it more.
in our current in the US
Not in
schools.
this country. Not
No.
enough.
Wow.
Especially
Yeah.
now that we're a global, we're global now. We're no longer isolationists, so you
So
should
what
be
do
able to speak something.
yeah, do you feel like there should be like a three language minimum or something? Like obviously we're capable of that, but
I think that would be awesome. I think
yeah.
something like that would be well worth it. I mean, some of the people we worked with in Prague, they were working on their fourth and fifth. One guy was working on his eighth. English was his eighth language. He'd known seven others before that.
Wow.
I don't, how else are you going to understand other cultures too? I just think it shows more respect by learning somebody else's language
Yeah.
to kind of build those bridges culturally. Um,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I mean,
Totally.
I jump back into Spanish. I mean, that's what my daughter's doing. So
Yeah.
she's just practicing Spanish. Why not?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. So take us back to pre becoming a teacher. You told me you originally wanted to be an engineer, and
Hmm.
um and you would just get you were getting taught in a style of uh I guess you had a passion for mathematics, did you?
Yeah. I always liked it.
Yeah. And
Yeah, for sure.
then and it was just the way the university teachers were teaching.
So the issue with mathematics at the time is that they taught procedurally. So when you were learning any, I mean, I think the multiplication algorithm is the first thing that jumps to mind. They simply told you how the algorithm worked. They didn't explain the steps, why the steps fit as they did. They didn't use visual models. They didn't use concrete models. They didn't do any of that stuff. They just said multiply this number by this number, this number by this number. Same for subtracting, you know, um, and regrouping and all that other stuff. It was always just do this, 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 this. It didn't build any understanding in my own mind. So I thought I was good at math because I could do all the procedures. Um,
Right.
I could teach a first grader multiplication algorithm. It wouldn't take you take a little bit of practice, but I could get them to do it. But they wouldn't understand what they were doing. So that's what they did. And it wasn't until I got into really more advanced mathematics that I realized it just didn't have the structure. It didn't have the background, the schema, the connections. It didn't have any of that to understand the concepts that we were working on.
Yeah.
And that was it,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
so it was they were teaching in a way just to here's how to memorize
pretty
this,
much.
opposed to here's how to think mathematically. And I'm not too mathematical myself, but I've heard that once you get to a certain degree, you start thinking really mathematically like a language. Is that
I think it's a lot like a language. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
good connection to make. I mean, and you can show kids the possible connections they could make, but you can't build it for them. Everyone's individual. So
Hmm.
everyone's going to think about it in different ways, and whatever works for them is fine. Whatever works, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, I just reached the end, and there was no. It was as clear as day. I just knew, okay, that's it. I mean, the only way I didn't have another idea of how I could go back and build that structure when I didn't have enough foundational knowledge in the first place.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
once I did figure that out, it took years of retraining, 4 or 5 years at least.
Retraining yourself
Building.
on how
Yeah,
to think, on how to
yeah,
as a suppose. Yeah.
yeah,
Suppose.
absolutely. Even now, kids will ask me questions, and you don't run away from it. You just say, okay, let's figure this out. And sometimes take me 2, 3 days trying to figure out how can I explain this and how can I.
Yeah, so you could just give them the answer, but you push them to understand it, like the concept of it and how to
Correct.
actually
Yeah.
think about it themselves, so they could even
Yep.
teach it if they want, right?
Yes, on a conceptual level, and to be able
Yep.
to really make sense of the math rather than do the math.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that.
it doesn't make sense otherwise. I mean,
Yeah,
and I think we've shown in the national rankings or international rankings, I should say that forcing math, down people's throats doesn't work. Um, and you have to take different approaches. Yeah, I mean, the math curriculum we use now is Australian.
all right.
Yeah.
So is it a
So,
good
and it's
one?
all online, but it's developed by Australian PhDs in mathematics. It's a
Right.
great
And
program, actually. It's
it's
fantastic.
it, so it's conceptual, it obviously teaches you how
Yeah.
to think mathematically. Yeah.
Yep. Builds it right from pre-K up and loops through and recovers concepts, but adds on to what they might have done in third, or and it's all linked. It's all interlinked all over the place, like a really complicated spider web.
Incredible. And do you, so I'm guessing you don't just, because you're a teacher of all subjects, right?
Yeah.
As
Yep.
a grade school teacher. Um,
Yes.
so how do you approach you do the same thing in like English and the conceptual teaching in all aspects as well?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, it's everything starts with foundational skills, right?
Hmm.
And you have to start from that point and then build upwards. And um, part of that means that you become uncomfortable with the work, which is fine because that's how you grow anyway. And I'm continually working on how can I teach writing more effectively? How can I teach reading comprehension more effectively? And there's always new ideas and new thoughts. And um, teaching tends to be cyclical as well. Some of the new ideas right now are actually 20 years old and are just brought back as something different. That
Yeah.
tends to happen.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the idea is how do I build? Nothing is linear, right? Learning isn't linear.
No.
So and everything is connected to everything else. So your writing is connected to your reading, is connected to your math, connected to your science. It's all connected.
Hmm.
So we teach skills individually, but the idea is how are they connected then within
They tie in together, how they,
how do they tie in? Yeah, exactly
yeah,
right.
right. And so like part part of it's so cool to see how your past connected to what you do now, and the passion that you have for teaching kids, not just teaching, but teaching them how to think, and really you got an incredible passion that I really look up to and respect, both you as a teacher and a parent, and a person.
Thank
In
you.
terms of like, from a teacher's perspective, I really want to ask you this, like, I guess because you're a parent as well. So I guess the question is because like other so parents might be trying to teach their kid something at home. How can they teach them conceptually as opposed to procedurally, like to remember this?
Hmm.
How do you go about that just with home life type of things if you're teaching your kid from a parent's perspective? Do you do the same approach or?
Yes. So the challenge I think for a lot of parents is that in order to teach their kids mathematics, say,
Yeah.
they're going to have to reteach it themselves. They're going to have to relearn it.
Oh, because
What a
they,
lot of what a lot of parents don't want to do is do that. They say, well, I learned division this way, or I learned multiplication this way, or this is how we do fractions,
right.
rather than, well, here's another way you could think about it.
Mm.
There's a lot of power, I think, in watching your parents try the same things you're trying. And
Mm.
I think there's a lot of um, growth that can come from having your own kid learn something faster than you do, and then being able to explain it and work through it together.
Hmm.
I find a lot of kids already know quote unquote division when they come in because their parents showed them that because they learned it in fourth grade
Yeah.
or whatever. And we don't even touch division now until the end of this grade, fifth grade.
Right.
So it's but they have to be willing to do that. Like you
Yeah.
have to be willing to go, okay, maybe what I learned wasn't as good as I could have. So let's try doing it differently.
And this is in supporting your children to learn.
Absolutely.
And that's actually something I would like to know. So, to what degree should a parent, or from your perspective, to what like how much responsibility for their so they're sending their kids to a school like and to be taught by you or
Yeah.
someone like you.
Yeah.
Is it like how much responsibility is it? They're like, okay, it's the teacher's responsibility. How much responsibility should the parent take in teaching them? Like, should there
Ooh.
be their own
Hmm.
curriculum, that sort of thing? That's for me. Like, I'm thinking when I have children, I'm like, maybe I should develop a like what
Yeah.
do you think? What's
Boy, that's a good question.
obviously it's just whatever your perspective it might
Yes,
be like
no. So what I've noticed is in the last 10 years, the school home student connection, that triangle, has become more of a school student connection.
right. Okay.
And so rather than have the three groups working together for the benefit of the student, I see a lot more of parents handing off their kids to the school and saying, here,
Full responsibility on you.
full responsibility.
Yeah.
And that goes back to kind of what we talked about before. That's not the case with everyone. There's still plenty of good parents out there that are involved. And involved means something sometimes just as simple as opening up your kid's backpack every night. What's in there? What have you been working on? How was your day at school? What do you need to work on? What
Mhm.
did you do well? I mean, it's just a discussion about their school life in general. And parents need to show an interest in that because kids are very perceptive. And if they pick up that the parents aren't interested, the battle to get the kid interested at school is very difficult. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
impossible, but close.
Wow. So you see the motivation in the kid is absolutely correlated with the level of motivation the parent has to uh or the level of interest the parent has in
Yeah,
learning. What'd you learn today?
yeah,
And tell me about what you're learning and things like that.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And it doesn't have to be for an hour even, just enough to say, hey, how was your day at school? What have you been working on? How can I help you? Do you have any work you need to do? What does your teacher want you to do tonight?
Hmm.
What's going on with your schedule? Just those basic things, and just being aware of what the kid's doing um, is absolutely critical. Like it's huge.
Yeah.
Um, I know based on how the kids are responding and working in school what the parents do at home.
Right. You
And I
can.
don't need to meet the parents to know that. It's clear as day.
Yeah.
Um, Usually things are confirmed in things like conferences. You'll know the kid for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, then you meet the parents and go, okay, got
Yeah.
it. And then you can make that connection and go forward. I mean, a lot of parents will step up and you say, hey, here's the things I need from you. Um,
Mhm.
and you'll see an immediate response in the kid. It's
So you're because I know you said the other day, and I absolutely love it how direct you are. You're quick to just say, "Hey, you need to be stepping up in this way
yeah,
and doing this," and
yeah,
some of the parents respond in a really well
yes.
positive way. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
I think how else are you going to know something? And I think a lot
And
of times they do know what's going on, right?
yeah,
But to have a second party be able to say, no, I'm also seeing this. We're seeing the same thing. You're seeing X behavior at home, so am I.
yeah,
So let's both do something about it. And if both sides can get together with something like that, you can get a change pretty fast.
yeah,
Um,
and I'm
and then
sure.
you can work on the stuff that's more important rather than having
Yeah,
to deal with whatever the issue is.
yeah, and I'm sure like a vast majority of the parents want the change to happen. Maybe they're just unaware that simple action of being more interested in the child, what the child's learning, will make that big difference. So to hear it from you is they're like, oh, I'll do whatever it takes, and
Right.
the majority of them, right?
Right. That's a lot of it. And I know that, teachers are aware of it.
Hmm.
Life is not easy. Some people have jobs that take them away constantly.
Well,
You
that's what I
know,
was.
Parents
Yeah,
are gone for 4 or 5 days at a time. Maybe they're doing long trucking. Maybe they work the night shift, or maybe they have three jobs, or maybe, who knows? There's so many different things that go on.
we're
Like
juggling so much. Yeah.
so much. And I get that. We really like teachers do understand that, but
Hmm.
for the success of the kid, you you have to put something into
Vital.
it.
It's vital, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's the
so what?
bottom line.
Yeah. So for the really busy parent who's juggling three kids and a job each, two parents, is something as simple as 5 minutes on the drive home, they ask, what'd you learn today? And get pumped
Yeah.
up about, like, get excited about it,
Yes.
enthusiastic,
Yes.
something simple as that.
Yes. The kid, I think, just needs to know that their parents or parents are invested in what they're doing. They kids are very perceptive,
Yeah.
right down to kindergarten. They know 100% what their parents think about education. I mean, to hear their parents say, "Oh, I'm not good at math," or "I was never a great writer," or "I didn't like to read either as a kid," the kid will immediately pick up on that and then continue that loop
Yeah.
rather than, we talked about the growth mindsets about, I
Mhm.
didn't know this, but now I think I'm going to try learning it. Let's think about this a different way. Let's try at least starting with 5 minutes of reading a night. Let's start
Mhm.
with something small and build up from there.
Yeah.
Um, it's not enough to give lip service to it either. I mean, kids 100% will know that you're just saying it in front of the teacher to say it.
Yeah.
But if you don't show that pattern and that habit,
So
you
that
know,
that just kind of like made me quite curious about that, because I kind of had that same experience as a youngster. I don't know if you understand the behavioral I know there's the stages in childhood development. Well, the different stages was obviously we're modeling our parents, we're modeling
yeah.
all parts of our parents, and I I kind of went down the rabbit holes, or I was more interested in the things that I got more attention for. I'm guessing a lot of kids are, or a lot of praise for maybe, for me it was sports. Like
Hmm.
I got quote unquote loved the most, like when I did well in sports, and
Right.
that's where my life went down. So
Right.
it's like, what? So my thought is, like, if a parent is like watching their kid read, and then the parent sort of uh, celebrates them for reading, the kid for reading, is that it's would make sense to me that the kid would be more likely to continue to reading
Yeah,
more.
that would be part of it for me. But to also see their parents reading just for the fun of it would also make a huge impact. I
Yes.
mean, it's all about modeling, right? So there's a reason that our daughter reads so much because we read a lot. There's a reason that she likes certain things because it's that old analogy, right? So if your dad's a huge football fan and he likes, I don't know, the Cincinnati Bengals, you're a Cincinnati Bengal fan. Of course
Yeah.
you are. And you love football. Football's always been your favorite. It's not till what, 1920, you're like, I've never liked football. Actually, I like tennis until you
Yeah.
start thinking for yourself. So that influence it covers all bounds, right? And the parents are going to be the lead indicators for what is important. And in your case, it was sports, right? I
Mhm.
mean, did you get positive feedback for your school stuff?
I can't say I didn't, but I probably didn't have the best grades. So I don't know. I don't remember, honestly. I don't remember getting positive feedback for my
Yeah.
school, especially in comparison to my sports.
Yeah.
The sports, just like, because I had a natural sort of tendency towards sports, and maybe I did.
Sure.
So absolutely, I don't think I did. Yeah.
So there was an imbalance.
Yeah, quite a.
And for me, there's always a natural curiosity about, so to me, there's a baseline, right? So um, kids got to be able to see, they need to be able to hear, they need their basic needs met. That means love, that means belonging, that means food, that means shelter. Um, dropped off at school at the right time and picked up at the right time. They need the basics met before you can move forward with that, with anything.
Yeah.
And so, and then you can get to things like, is there an emphasis put on school? I mean, I've had students, of course, where the parents, there's no emphasis, there's no interest in school whatsoever. And what you have is just a very unmotivated kid who's not interested in being there,
And
all the way up to school is the most important thing.
yeah.
Um,
When you say emphasis, how does that, what does that look like from, is it just what we said before? Just like, what's going on? What are you learning? Is it that sort of thing?
yeah, I think, well, I mean, what you see is you see parents picking up kids and they're gone. There's no discussion. There's no, I mean, how's your day seems like a very simple thing, right? It just seems like that should be a very simple, how was your day? How'd it go?
Yeah.
Um, and kids need practice on that. They need practice on conversation and how to communicate what was going on, because when things get more challenging, for me, middle school, right?
Mhm.
You need to be able to keep that communication going between the kid and parent, or kid and teacher, so that you
Mhm.
know what's going on in their lives. And if you've never practiced that, then they will not go that route, and you won't know what they're doing. You won't know how they're doing. And
Yeah.
that's one of my philosophies too, is I try to open up that communication really, really early to find out, at least get some hints of home life, or some hints of, are we getting to bed on time? Did we get dinner last night? Did we have a breakfast this morning?
Wow.
Is there other indication, are you not sleeping well? Because if they don't have those met, how are you expecting them to learn, especially the complicated stuff that we're doing now,
Yeah.
with
So
the
you're
standards
not
that we have?
wow. So so as a teacher, you're not just coming in going, oh well, they're just my responsibility from in school time. You're going to the next level to take that first period of time to get to know them, and then moving into, so you can open them conversations up with them to get to know their home life a bit, so then you can bring it to the parents and say, hey, this and this needs to happen if you want to see your kid really excel.
Yeah, I try to get inside their mind as soon as possible
Wow.
and try to figure out how they're thinking and what's important to them and how they approach things, and are they malleable,
Mhm.
and can I work with them, and do they have a temper, and all that stuff, everything. I tell them day one, right now, immediately, I'm making notes on all of you mentally, right away. What are your habits? What do you do? What do you like? What do you, everything. Do you volunteer? Do you not volunteer? Do you get work done? How
Mhm.
quickly do you get it done? Are you neat? Are you slow? Are you fast? Are you thoughtful? Are you careless? All of that stuff. It's constant, and it starts immediately, absolutely immediately. So that way, by the time I get to this point of the year, I have a pretty good idea, for the most part, what, how hard I can push someone, or how I can approach them to get them to go.
Right. So you have
Right.
different motivation strategies.
Completely different for each person.
Yeah. I've
You know.
It's the same as adults, really, because
Yeah.
I have that same approach in a different way within my coaching clients.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the more you can do that, then the more you, at least you could get an indicator of how far you might be able to take them, or how far they're willing to go.
Mm.
And you need to push them past breaking point to see where they will stop, if they will, or what shuts them down, or what, because we all have walls, right? We all build these walls. And so
Yeah.
what are the major walls for each kid? What are their main struggles? And sometimes I can do that, and the parent doesn't need to worry about it. I can take care of it. But a lot of times I need the parent involved, because
Yeah.
it's bigger than what I can do. I don't have that much power, not really. The parents have a vast majority of the power.
And that's, tell me about, you mentioned the other day about how you can kind of tell where a child is at within a certain age point and what their trajectory really is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a bit more to me?
Well, habit is everything. A kid's habit is watching them, what they do, and how they perform consistently, regardless of academic level. If they have good habits, you know where they're going to go. And if they have bad habits, you know where they're going to go, because they're habits. They're built in. I have a girl right now in class she's low academically, she's low reader, she's low math, she's low writing, but she works hard
So
every
that's
day.
so that's an example of what a good habit is working
Yep.
hard, work
She
ethic.
comes in and she works consistently. She learns from mistakes. She takes feedback. She takes criticism. She'll redo things. She works. She is there to get it done. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, she's behind right now, but within 3, 4 years, 5 years,
She
she'll
should
be
be.
past most,
Okay. So
because I don't see her changing her habits. I don't think that she will.
yeah.
Um, she
What
just goes.
You're just like, she'll catch up.
Yeah.
So, and so what are some examples of more good habits that you see in kids where you're like, they're going to be okay? The work ethic,
Malleability,
malleability.
willingness to change,
Yep.
work ethic, um,
Accepting
w-
criticisms.
willingness to accept mistakes
Yep.
and learn from the mistakes so that, you repeat a mistake one time, two times, three times, who cares? You repeat them four times, five times, now we start to have a problem because it means that you're not listening and paying attention to your own learning.
Yeah.
Um, ability to metacognate, to think about how you think,
Yes.
um,
Yep.
is huge.
Yep.
Um, willingness to accept feedback and not see it as criticism,
Mm-hmm. Which is part
is
of the
really
growth
important.
mindset.
Um, understanding why they're coming to school in the first place, that you're there to learn.
Mm.
Um, first and foremost, socialize, of course, have fun for sure, but you're there to better yourself. You're there to learn as much as you can about everything you can. Um, yeah, it's just endless. I mean, those are those the main ones. It's a really good question.
Wait,
Um, curiosity, willingness to be curious about stuff and to learn new things, willingness to break out of what you normally like and
yep.
try something different,
Yep.
and to be flexible in that rather than, manga's all the thing right now for reading. It's all
Agreed.
about graphic novels right now and manga. Oh, Google it. It's everywhere.
Mango.
It's manga, manga.
Oh, manga.
Oh,
Okay.
it's absolutely huge. Japanese anime,
Right.
um, that type of thing. It's massive right now in fourth, fifth grade, third, fourth, fifth grade.
Okay.
It's been a real cultural shift in the last 5, 6 years, which is great. I have no problem with that. Do you also want to read a book about tigers? Can you also do this biography on Aretha Franklin?
Yeah.
Why don't you read this bit of science on, the life cycle of flowers? So it can't always be the same thing.
So let's imagine you got a kid like I was in primary school. I would come in,
Mhm.
I'd probably do the work, but I didn't have a crazy work ethic. I didn't sort of get why I was even at school. I didn't really understand that.
Mhm.
How do you get like I said, it was just sports was my life. That's where I got sort of my sort of that's what I was modeled as what's most important, I guess,
Yeah,
from the reactions my parents gave me. But
sure.
and like you said, when I turned 20, that's when I fell in love with learning again. It's like my own
Yeah,
choice, like what you said earlier. You get
yeah,
to a stage,
yeah.
yeah. But how would you approach taking a kid like that and getting them bought into wanting to be at school and getting it and be like, this is cool. I get it now.
I think there's a natural interest in learning,
Yeah.
but it has to be. I wonder, just thinking about you. Oh man, I would have loved to have been your teacher. Just go back
Yeah.
back in time. Just gotta figure it out. Was the
Yeah.
work too hard? Was it too challenging, or was it too easy, or was it?
You know what? I had ADD. I was diagnosed with that.
Hmm.
I was kind of on and off medication for that. It
Hmm.
was definitely challenging for me. I never, I had just a limiting belief within, just kind of the belief from when I was a teenager all the way up into because that I just wasn't that smart. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that coming from my parents or what, but
Hmm.
definitely a belief I had. I just wasn't that. I'm just not as smart
Yeah.
as people. It's just like, and it was totally like a fixed mindset towards
Yeah.
academics. I was just totally, and then I hit 20 years old. I'm like, what? I could learn anything I want if I'm like, what? And then just open this whole new world up. That fixed mindset broke, and I'm just like, I could truly learn anything I want, and it excited me, and it opened my world up.
Was there any one thing that triggered that?
Um, do you mean in my early 20s when that
Yeah.
happened? I I think there was something around, I dealt with quite severe mental health challenges, and it's why I'm in the work I do today.
Yep.
Quite severe, depression and that sort of thing. And I used to read a lot in I used to read and learn a lot in I didn't think I was learning at the time, but for years I was
Mm-hmm.
learning the ins and outs of nutrition and sports, and so I was doing a
Mm-hmm.
boxing career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the the challenges I had with my mother, the psychological, I just didn't. So one of my biggest passions came that I couldn't help my mother. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she had her own mental health challenges, and I
Yeah.
couldn't I couldn't help her, and that tore my heart apart. And I
Yeah.
didn't never I couldn't accept, struggled to accept life because I couldn't help her. Then I
Yeah.
figured out you can learn about psychology, you can learn and understand people, and my curiosity in understanding a person's mind just led me down that path. I'm like, there's books on this. What, people have spent their whole life studying this stuff? I get to
Mm-hmm.
read that? What?
Mm-hmm.
So that probably is what opened it up for me because I guess with every person I help now is kind of me helping my mother back
Yeah.
then.
That's your motivation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're very
Yeah.
similar in that way. Yeah. The challenge is that I don't want to wait for these kids to be 20 or 21,
Yeah.
right? My kids are 10 and 11, and I want them to have that now. But getting back to the parent aspect, if I can't convince the parents to get those basic needs, especially with attention deficit,
Yeah.
then the child has a much lower chance. I don't want to say little chance, but it just, based on experience, so much less of a chance of hitting success earlier
Yeah.
rather than having to go through a rough childhood, a rough adolescence, and then be 18, 19, 25, or maybe never, right? And figuring out what you want to do. Um, that's the real frustration as well, is that I told you before, I've had some success this year, and I'm already seeing some movement from kids, which then remotivates me to continue.
Mhm.
But there's been some that haven't done anything, and I already know what's going to happen with that,
Yeah.
um, which just leads to more frustration and, like, you know,
You're because you just care so much. You're like you just want to be able to, yeah, make the
well, who
change.
wants a kid to struggle, right?
No,
Who
yeah.
wants a kid to go through all that stuff? You're going to have to go through regular middle school stuff. I get it. That's just, I don't know, just how we mature, right? How it happens. Um, but not it shouldn't be more than that. It shouldn't be greater than that. And the level of dropouts you get now in seventh, eighth, ninth grade, the level of quitting you get from boys and girls in mathematics and science. Typically, if the dropout point for math and science, as far as interest level and or taking classes now, is eighth grade.
Wow.
So I only have 2 years, two
Yeah.
years, 3 years to get them. I've got this year to keep them interested so that they'll keep going. Um, Otherwise, they stop, and you know how much that limits future possibilities. College becomes tougher, or tech schools, wherever they're going to go.
And
You
my
need a high
thought
school diploma just to work at McDonald's now. So
my thought goes beyond that. Like that leads then into, um, you everyone compares yourself to other people, and that leads to comparisons. Where am I at compared to them?
yep,
I'm limited in my jobs, and then that causes self-esteem issues and
yep,
mental health issues. And then you
yep.
got, no wonder we have a opiate epidemic and depression epidemic. And
Right.
it's
It's
yeah.
a vicious cycle too, because then you just say, "Oh well, that kid's just good at math. They've always been better than me at math."
Yeah.
No, that kid has simply done more in that particular category than you have done. You
Yes.
have time to make that up. Let's start here.
Yes.
Um, and I bet that would have made a difference with you as well, even with the attention challenges.
Hmm.
Okay, maybe you're not, you're a fifth grader, but you're a fourth grade level reader. Well, instead of slamming fifth grade books in front of you, let's give you a third grade book.
Yeah.
Let's get you a fourth grade book. Let's get you
That's
some
like
stuff
building
you
my
could be interested
confidence.
in. Yeah. And kids will naturally get themselves interested in reading or writing or whatever it is. They like that. They like to learn. You
Hmm.
just can't present it in such a way that makes it impossible for them to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, given to give my parents, my dad was working like nonstop, but to give my mum a break,
Yeah.
I was probably like, I don't know, I've heard from not just my a lot of people that I was a wild child. So I was kind of like a just absolutely wild, and something you mentioned the other day, which I really was fascinated about, and I kind of learned in through my work with disadvantaged youth that I worked with, was you spoke about boundaries and how can you explain that the boundaries thing that you talk about, and how why that's so important for parents to
So so kids can regulate to a certain level, right? But if you go to any elementary school playground and watch kids trying to play football or basketball, it doesn't go well. It never goes well. It's
yeah
never a nice little 5v5, everyone following the rules, calling fouls at the right time and cooperating. Never. It's a
no.
scrum. It looks like rugby, regardless of what sport they're playing, right? There's boys on the ground, and one's screaming, and the other's crying, and two are walking away, and right.
Great
But
point.
if you
Yeah.
provide a boundary, the second you provide basketball, for example, suddenly there's a ref and a coach, then you got a game and a
Yeah.
crowd, and everyone's fine, and they understand the rules. The ref calls a foul, and there you go, you're fine.
Yeah.
Pull all that away, and it goes right back to where it started before. It's like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
So same thing with academics, right? Provide that to provide an environment that's safe, provide an environment where kids know they can make a mistake and be themselves and not be made fun of
Yeah.
for either how they look, who they are, how they dress, or what their academics are, whether or not they're a low reader, high reader, whatever, to
Mhm.
just be able to go and learn without feeling that pressure of, oh, these 8 people are better than me at this.
So
How can
that's
you not? You can't do that without parameters. There has to be guidelines.
yeah.
And they have to watch the educator nip that stuff in the bud. Day one,
Right.
no, you cannot speak like that. I
Yeah.
will not accept a shout out. I will not expect you, did you just start laughing at that? What does that mean? Why do we not laugh at others? Why do we not roll our eyes? Why do
Yeah.
and
You
explain it?
hold up the boundaries with rules, with some disciplines,
Yep.
and that eventually leads to them feeling safe to
Yes.
be themselves fully, right?
Yes. And I don't use a reward system. I don't use, um, there's no standard punishments. There's none of that. It's just, we really just talk about consequences and natural consequences,
Yeah.
and to emphasize the fact there are also positive consequences as well as negative.
Yep.
That, yeah, there's a negative consequence for not getting your homework. Yeah, you're not going to recess.
Yep.
Simple. Get your work done. But if you did get it finished, hey, not only did you do well on your assignment, but you just got a pretty solid grade on that test you just did. Nice work.
Yeah.
And you learned something. Well done. You can feel good about that.
Yeah.
Um, I tell the kids they get credit either way. You get credit for the good things and you get credit for the bad things. You're the one that's doing it. I just provide an area to work in, you
Yeah.
know.
So you're like
Um,
the ref on
yeah,
the court sort of thing on the
100%.
yeah. Nice.
100%. I mean, I ref soccer for 13, 14 years, and the correlations are very strong. My refing made my teaching better, and my teaching made my refing better.
Wow.
Because they're very similar.
Yeah.
You know, you did something you shouldn't have, foul. You did really something you shouldn't have, yellow card. You
Yeah.
really overstepped, red, bye. You
Yeah.
know, simple.
Consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a
And the
good
kids see
time.
that. Kids are smart.
Yep.
They see it. They
Yeah.
see the positive stuff, especially. If you could get them to switch that mindset to pay attention to the positives.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the challenge, isn't it?
yeah.
And the cool thing is teaching kids consequences, like the younger you get taught consequences and the less severe they are. It seems like they get worse and
Yeah.
worse the older you get.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked about this, but how do you explain the next 2 or 3 years coming
Yeah.
for these fifth graders to try to give them just an inkling of what these great habits that you do, how that could benefit you moving forward, as opposed to this thing you're insisting on doing right now that is detrimental to your learning.
Mm,
And to just give them just a second of insight,
yeah.
you know, you see that thing you just did right there? Awesome.
Yeah.
Loved that choice. You know, you wrote the assignment down on the calendar, you went home, you finished it, and you got it turned back in. That's great. I
Mm,
love seeing that.
yeah.
Continue, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Give them that verbal reward type of thing. And
yeah. And you get some kids that tend to beat themselves up too if they didn't write it down, they didn't take it home, or maybe they did take it home and they didn't do it. The first step is them just self-eliminating themselves, and you just stop that. Just okay, let's get it finished, and then tonight redo, right? Take the next thing home,
yep.
improve on that. That's fine.
Can we learn from that?
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
you can do it
So,
with trust.
sorry?
You can do it with trust if they believe in you. You can
Yeah.
do it.
That's the building that trust
Yep.
and yeah. So what is your like do you have like a mission around your teaching? Personal mission?
Yeah, I want them to build lifelong habits that are going to promote positivity
Yep.
and growth.
Yep.
I'm trying to, I constantly think about their next 6 or 7 years and beyond. In
Hmm.
fifth grade, it's not just about getting the June and get the next batch. I
Hmm.
want them to develop the habits they need
Yeah.
for the next decade.
Yeah.
That's the mission.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Um, but yeah, that's the mission. That's it. Get them to be self-managing, independent, critical thinkers that can manage the future.
Amazing. And I feel like what a lot of what we've spoken about is you've shared your philosophy around teaching. But is there anything you would add to that other than what we talked about?
I just want kids to self-actualize.
Yep.
I just want kids to understand that they're capable
Yep.
and they can take themselves further regardless of level, regardless of, they know who the top math students are in the room. They get it. And that's fine. Understand, okay, great. Someone's better at you currently, whatever.
Mhm.
But to get them to understand that they can do stuff too, you know, you
Yep.
can be great at stuff too. What do you want to do? And rather than getting, I don't know, it's nice to hear well, I'm going to really focus on art, or I want to do writing. I want to become a better writer, or
Mhm.
just to get them to understand that learning is the overused phrase is lifelong learners, right?
Yep.
But that is the goal, is to get them to figure out how they can learn, how they can educate, even when they might not think they're capable, to get them to think that they're capable.
Yeah, so kind of shifting them from any sort of fixed mindset
Yeah,
to a growth mindset.
yeah,
So vital.
yeah. It's completely vital. If you can get them to go, it's the correlation for me. The story for me is, so when you teach, I taught first grade for a couple of years, and the magic of first grade is you do a lot of phonics work, a lot of letter sounds, blends, and that type of thing for the first 4 or 5 months. And right around January, February, they go to Christmas break, they come back, and right around January, February, you watch a majority of them start to read, and they really, that light bulb goes off, and they really start to click, and then you just have voracious readers.
Right.
That, but
Yeah.
for everything.
Yeah.
That moment we're just like, all right, let's go.
That's amazing.
But for all of it.
Yeah.
It's just a tiny goal, right? It's a
Yeah.
tiny,
And how it's a tiny
small thing, small
and,
deal. Yeah.
in your experience, do a lot of other teachers have that same mission? Because I guess in meeting you, it kind of surprised me because over the years I kind of built a I didn't realize I was building it, but just from my school years, I kind of built a generalization around like
Mm-hmm.
parents are just teachers are just there to kind of just do their thing and get their pay and sort of like
Hmm.
I created that generalization. Of course, I knew there is passionate teachers out there who genuinely want to make a difference.
Yeah.
But from our talk the other day, I get the sense there's a lot more than what I'm definitely aware of. But do you is that your experience? There's a lot more really passionate teachers with
There's a very long history. It
yep
would be interesting to look country to country on this too, by the way,
yeah
because I don't know that it's a typically an American issue, but I think it certainly is an issue that teachers are not professional, that we're not viewed in the same public service genre as policemen, firefighters, nurses, doctors, and I disagree with that.
you're building the next generation.
Yeah,
It's one of the most important
I would
things.
hope so. I
Yeah.
think, not to get meta on this, but I think because it's been such a female dominated um, profession, that
Mhm.
there's built-in sexism with that.
Okay.
And so and I think that's part of it. I really do.
Okay.
Um, and I think maybe that's shifting over time, but when you watch the news and you have people suggest ex-military can go teach, right? This adult over here, they can go teach, no problem. Maybe that's true. Maybe they can go do it, but not without training, not without
No.
some practice. So
Yeah.
are there a lot of passionate teachers? Yeah.
Yep.
Hell yes. A
Yep.
lot. Um, they just want their kids to do well, and they're doing everything we're very individualistic.
Yep.
Teaching is as individualistic as the people teaching, right? So there's so many different styles and so many different approaches, but the general goal is the same
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, regardless of level.
Yeah.
K-12. Um,
Yeah.
I work with a lot of people at different levels and do lots of meetings through union work, and they're just as worked up about stuff as we are down in elementary. And
Yep.
they're a chemistry teacher, or they teach middle school history or whatever. But the
Yep.
goal is the same, and the frustration is the same as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, one breed group trying to get the next group forward.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which is such a cool. That's how you get a nation forward, right?
yeah.
Like,
Ultimately, yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
like I just to that's one of my goals in with the work that I do with some of the student athletes that I work with is to really push them to think for themselves. And that's something that you said that you have so much passion for helping these kids not into what to think, but how to think critically, to start
yeah.
thinking themselves conceptually, systematically. That's something I'm super personally passionate about, and I love that so much. Yeah,
It's the challenge of the job that's fun, right? So I'm still doing it.
it's the challenge of the what? Sorry.
Of the job that's fun.
Okay,
It's the
that's what.
mental challenge, right?
Yeah,
It keeps you engaged all the way, because there's never a moment where you're like, oh, I don't have anything to do. Sure wish I had something to work on. That never happens.
you're working on multiple levels,
Yeah.
like so many different levels. There,
So many levels.
what stage of the communication am I with them?
Yeah.
Have I built enough rapport? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Do I need to make a call home? Do I need to make an email? Do I need to type a conversation? Do I need to bring in another expert within the school system to help out too? Yeah, it's
yeah,
doesn't get boring. It's never boring. Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And has that changed? How's that changed your how's teaching changed your personal philosophy and as a as a parent like let's say you having the insight you have as a teacher, getting to see so many parents and kids and how the relationship reflects things, and how's that affected your relationship with your daughter and your approach to parenting?
Um, we've tried to be really experiential
Yep.
and show her as many things as we can to help her understand that there's more than just her, and that there's lots of different interests that you can involve yourself in, and that if you are interested in something, then it will support that direction, right?
Yeah.
So she wants to play cello, great, let's go get a cello. Let's do it. She wants to learn Spanish. All right, let's go learn Spanish.
Yep.
She wants to travel. Let's try some traveling. Let's do this. Let's do that. And to not, my parents limited me,
Right. So that's the
right? So
okay.
yeah, and I hated that. Of course, I was big into soccer and played a bit of basketball, sports wise, but like going out and doing stuff wasn't. We went camping now and then and that type of thing, but when I came up with an interest that I wanted to do, was it certainly, a lot of times no.
Yeah.
Or here's how you need to think. Think this way. Well, what
Yeah.
about this way? No, no. Think this way. Okay. And then you get older and go, no, no, I don't want to think that way now.
Right.
So, to let her, we're the guiders, right? We're the ones that are steering her.
Mhm.
But and there's sometimes we're like, no, that's not happening.
Mhm.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But you want to try this? You want to try this instead? Let's give this a shot. Let's get this book. Let's get this game. Um, just trying to open her eyes to what is possible.
Yeah.
And we've been growth mindset with her from the start, or
Yeah.
at least tried to be.
Yeah.
Kids teach you right away. You hold that kid in your arms for the first time and go, "Ooh, right,
Yeah.
here we
Well,
go."
okay. So like it's the real deal. That's what
It's
you
a
mean.
real deal. And there's no nurse helping you out anymore. There's no doctor. It's just this kid
yeah.
in the baby carrier.
Yeah.
Whew, it teaches you real quick, real fast. And but you embrace the challenge, right? You embrace it and you think, okay, let's make as good a person as we can before she inevitably sets loose and starts thinking on her own.
And for someone who's just had that feeling, like they're it's hitting them now more than ever that wow, this is not a dress rehearsal. I've
Yeah,
got a kid. What advice would you give to that kind of person? A
embrace it,
embrace it.
embrace it, and go.
Yeah.
Embrace it and go. It's fine. It's so I'm pretty objective
Yep.
rather than subjective. It's happening currently. So deal with it. Do what you got to do. She's screaming. So why? Figure that out. And you figure it out pretty fast. It's only 4 or 5 things, right?
Yeah.
Same thing happens almost every day in education. Same thing.
Yeah.
Those kids walk in the door and they are waiting. Like, what are we doing? What's going on? Well, just go.
Mhm.
Drop the fear, drop everything else, and just go. And understand you're going to mess it up,
Yeah.
which is fine. It's fine. You show enough support. I mean, the kids, I make mistakes in the classroom and at home all the time.
Yeah.
And there's no freaking out over it. Just like, you're right. Yep. Good call. Good catch on that one.
Yeah.
My mistake. Fix.
Accept it and move
Okay.
on.
Move on.
Yeah.
Kids dropped the entire bucket of colored pencils the other day. 1,000 pencils on the floor. And he looked and everyone paused and just went and looked at me and just waited for me to explode. Why am I getting, you just dropped it. So I just went, just pick it up. It's fine.
Wow.
It's okay. Just pick it up. Just fix it. And they fixed it, no problem. But you could have gone the other way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but what's the point? It fell. It happened.
Yeah.
That's how I deal with a lot of things. This is currently happening. Okay. Let's deal with it. Let's move on.
That's a great philosophy. I just taught a mindful athlete workshop last night to a bunch of teenage athletes and trying to instill that into them. It's mindfulness adapted to young athletes in getting into the zone and things.
Yeah.
That really well, even working with young Emma as well, just helping them get that understanding between sensory-based facts versus your own evaluation. So it's like adding the evaluation, we dropped the buckets, that was terrible. It was like, no, it's not. It's not really terrible. It's you just dropped a bucket of pencils. That's the sensory-based fact. It's not. You don't have to add anything onto that. It's just pick it up. And so many of these kids, one of the key issues I work with is kids with performance anxiety, which is directly related to fear of making mistakes, and so often it comes down to they're making it so much worse than what it is with their words, with their language they're using, that I can't, they're building up all this stuff around. It's like, you just didn't get the result you wanted. That's okay. What can you learn from that? And then just take it and move on. Take it and move on. And so
the other thing that clicks with me on that one too is that use of excuse. Well, I just didn't do good on that because this happened, or this happened. Externalizing versus internalizing.
So that's a dangerous beginning, right?
It's very dangerous. And the kids, I try to cut that off as soon as possible. No, this action happened, right? Whose responsibility is that? And just to get a kid or anyone to say, well, I did this. And sometimes that's a huge hurdle for them, just to accept responsibility for self.
Yeah. Yes. And it's amazing how many adults are walking around with that same pattern still going. They externalize it's not my responsibility. It's like, that's wow.
As soon as they accept responsibility, I find they move forward quite quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
Take responsibility, move forward. You're right. You didn't do X, Y, or Z. Okay, let's deal with it then.
You're still accepted.
Let's go.
Let's move forward.
Yeah. Learn from it. I think what you did with them on that treasure box. At first I was like, really? Okay, give it a shot, right? See how it goes. But to take the treasure out of it and leave the box.
With that metaphor
was great. And I use it now all the time.
Yep.
I use it all the time. She got
what's the treasure you can take from that mistake? Yeah.
What do you take from it, right? She got physically absolutely crushed in a game 3 weeks ago, and it led to a goal. Lots of stuff. We don't need to get into it. It's fine. And I watched her. What is she going to do? I mean, she got her bell absolutely wrong. And you could see her just kind of sit for a second, try to get back and recover. Didn't work. Goal got scored. And she went and she gave the goalkeeper a high five, clapped her hands together a couple of times, and got back to it.
Wow.
Tremendous. And that's what I want everyone to do, right? This happened. Okay. That sucked. Deal with it. Accept it. Move.
Is what it is. And that's like, and that is such a, it sounds so simple, you just saying that, and for your daughter to get to there and do that, it's like, but like that is what the pros have worked years to develop their mentality, to be able to let go so easily.
Let it go.
So cool.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that too. I mean, there's just so many connections with that, right? I mean, we've all made some pretty bad mistakes, but
yes.
What was it? Figure it out. Don't do that again. Move on.
And I've found it's not just a mistake that is the problem. Some of the older athletes I've worked with, as an example, they've built up a lot of meanings on top of what that mistake means. So it's not just a mistake. It really means that they've let the team down and they've let the coach down.
I am this. Yeah.
I'm this, and then I'm not going to get to Division I soccer. I'm not going to reach my goal, and then my life's a waste of time. So, but they've got all these built up a stack of meanings which are unresourceful, and I find that that's what they're feeling when they make a mistake. They're not feeling that it was just, you just kicked it out. You made a mistake, like everyone on the planet makes mistakes every day. The best in the world make mistakes, but they've built it up to be this big thing. And then, which is just their beliefs, it's not the truth. And then when you collapse that, when you get rid of that stuff, it can really make a difference.
It's the same challenge with students, that self-belief, and the self-belief could be quite negative as well. The ones that are positive, that you don't have to worry about them ever. They're always going, they're always moving forward. They're engines, they just go and go and go. But the ones that just believe, there's nothing I can do about it. There's no way I can get out of this. So why bother? That's the challenge. It's like,
that's such a big, that must be such a big factor in your, in the teaching, because you know what, one thing that changed me massively as a 14, 13 year old was when I met my first boxing coach, and he's this crazy fella, but he was cool. But he essentially believed in me so much, like he was insanely believed in me, that it gave me this sense of like, wow, someone believes me in that much,
Yeah.
and it gave me this superpower. And I
Yeah.
excelled in boxing so quickly because I put it down to he was a great trainer, but his insane belief in me, and I bought into
Yeah.
his belief. I
Yeah.
feel like it was a superpower. Do you
There's
find that?
there's
Yeah.
a number of studies that correlate that
Yeah.
that a teacher's belief in student, um, even if it overrides the student's belief in self, is there's a high correlation for success on that.
Yeah, I did hear a study on that where they
Mhm,
told the teacher these kids are like super special. There's something
mhm,
about them. They're super smart, and they were just
mhm.
average kids, and they come out like
Yep. Yep.
they come out
I know
way
that
smarter
study.
than you.
Yep.
Wow, they're
Yeah. You can come and it's that power of positivity as well. And that you have to be very careful when you go that direction. Then when they don't make it, when they have a small hiccup or whatever, that you don't
should not be disappointed.
show that disappointment, because that disappointment gets multiplied
Yeah,
more than it should be. Like everything's magnified when you go to that level. So
yeah,
you have to be very careful on your feedback at that point. But if you could just get them moving, and once they do, then you're, you know, but yeah, that power belief is massive.
yeah. There's something that's one thing that comes that really I think helps me in my coaching with clients because I have this unconditional belief in people that I'm like, if you keep trying and working at this, I have like you can do anything you want. I just totally believe in people, and I think I see the best in people. I aim to do that anyway because I truly think every single person has something magic about them or something special that there's like everyone's fascinating when you
Yeah.
really ask the right
Yes.
question and you get to know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone is fascinating.
It would be a main message for parents, honestly, is that just put that belief into your kids.
Yep.
Just say, I know you can do this. I know you're going to make it. Here's how we're going to help.
Yep.
Just that's such a huge. I don't think that parents understand how how much influence they truly have over their kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it makes my power look minuscule,
Yeah.
um, based on what I can do in a classroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, how long have you got? I don't want to keep you. I could talk to you for hours. So, have you got a few
Whatever.
more minutes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah,
I did want to
whatever.
ask. I did want to ask you about like I don't know if it's just because I've read more things about this subject recently, or it's actually becoming more of a thing. Uh,
Mhm.
homeschooling. What's your perspective on homeschooling? And it's
I knew you'd ask that one.
yeah.
Um,
It's just yeah, it doesn't just yeah, we can have a chat on it. Doesn't have to be
no, no, it's fine. Yeah, I thought about this one when it popped up on the paper. I thought, okay, yeah, this would be an interesting one.
yeah. I'm sure it varies a lot.
I have met I'm going to say majority of the parents that I have met
Yeah.
in the last 15 years that have said they've homeschooled have come nowhere close to what your public educator can do.
Yeah.
And not from lack of, no, sometimes just from lack of effort,
Okay.
but sometimes not. Sometimes the parents are putting a lot into it or trying to, but maybe not having that objectivity because it's their kid, or maybe because it's happening at home where it's already comfortable. COVID exposed that quite a bit too,
Yeah.
where you're at home. And so your ability to simply walk away from the learning or walk away from the challenge was too easy for
Yeah.
many.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not saying it can't be effective,
Mhm.
but without the training and without the knowledge, especially in a gen ed situation where you're doing science, social studies, history,
Mhm.
writing, reading, grammar, math,
Yeah.
you can't be an expert in all of it. I mean, we can't either, right? Um, so I don't know that there's enough out there even to properly support those who want to homeschool.
Yeah.
And typically the kids I get who have been homeschooled take a lot of work to get them where they
Yeah.
need to be.
Yeah.
Um,
To be able to
yeah,
match what the kids are learning at a school, right?
at the rate we're going, the intensity of education is pretty overreaching. I mean, we really are trying the impossible, really. And
Yeah.
I understand where parents are motivated on that.
Mm.
Um, I think if they're truly interested in doing it, you can have a successful homeschool experience for sure.
Mhm.
But it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
And I think it really does have partly to do simply with location, that you're trying to do something, you're now mixing your personal life and your academic life. And I think that's
Yeah. That's a
very
tough.
difficult to separate the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. It's quite yeah, unless you're trained in homeschooling. This is just my guess. I don't know much about it, but I can't imagine it'd be quite a load. I'd imagine.
You're looking at 6 hours a day,
Yeah. Yeah.
7, because you're going to throw in that homework and everything else. And I don't know if you can treat your kids objectively. You
Yes. That.
know, I
Yeah.
don't, how can you be as critical or as
Mm.
objective as you need to be when they're your son or your daughter? I
Mm.
don't know. I mean, sure, it's possible. It's got to be possible, right? There's
Mm.
plenty of kids that have had great homeschooling experiences, but
Yep. Yep.
I don't think that's the rule.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
And- and-
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, I'm sure there's multiple different paths people can go down and things.
I think that the most powerful thing that you want to do if you went that direction would be simply be a super parent at home once your kid's gone to school for the day and support them that way. Then your
Okay.
kids will blow the roof off. So put
Yeah.
your time into that support role rather
Yeah.
than the primary role of educator and
Yeah.
become that secondary support. The kids that have that at home are always way beyond, the norm.
Yeah. And
That's where
part
I put
of,
my energy.
yeah, part of my approach is like I because your child is so precious to you, you don't want them just going to be taught by anyone. But for
Yeah.
someone like with your philosophy and your approach to teaching, I'd be like, oh, like you, my child's in safe hands. The fact that you have this internal drive to want them to think critically, to want them to do well in the next year, like it's like I would feel good knowing meeting my child's teacher every year and making sure it's a version of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like,
I think there's a lot of teachers' motivations. I mean,
yeah,
I don't believe that. I think most teachers are doing their best,
yeah,
you know. Um, and there's a lot more to it, obviously. There's all sorts of politics involved and
yeah. It's got to be difficult. Yeah,
other people telling you what you should be doing, and you nod your head and go, yeah, okay, cool. And then you do what you know you need to do. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of that. So, and it's such an experiential job anyway, right? So
yeah,
imagine yourself in 10 years,
yeah.
how much better you'll be and how much more effective. And you
Yes,
want that now for yourself, but that's not possible. But in 10 years, man, whew,
yeah,
you can really be cranking it out. And I feel the same, you know,
yeah,
be much better in 5 years, 10 years than I am now.
yeah, yeah. And if you're not, then what's that quote? If
I've
you
done something wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
wasted your time or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about, and it's kind of like perfect for you because you've been in the teaching industry for 16 years, you said,
Mhm.
and it might more so it might connect with teenagers in high school and things like that instead because what I want to ask you is like have you noticed any change, like what role has social media played in the change of child development over that
Mm,
time? Or do
mm.
you know much about that? Any impact that you've noticed personally or heard about? I'm sure there's
Other than
been.
the fact that kids no longer capitalize their eyes.
Yeah.
Um, Darn texting.
Yeah.
Um, that's that old argument, and we've kind of touched on this before. Like when we were kids, you memorized everyone's phone numbers. So
Yeah.
you had 10 friends and you knew all their numbers by heart. You could call them from anywhere. And
I
now
did.
kids can't even spell their friend's name. It's in their phone. It's fine. It's in their phone and they can voice activate it.
Yeah.
So what is the role of social media played? Um, I think the one of the main things that social media has done has convinced kids that any of them can be a YouTuber, that
Yeah.
any of them can just go on TikTok and make millions of dollars. You could
Yeah.
be Mr. Beast if you want to. No problem. You can go make hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyone could do that. So I don't need this math. I
Yeah.
don't need to worry about this reading comprehension strategy that we're working on with questioning because I'm just going to do a lot of the boys. I'm going to be coder. I'm
Yeah.
just going to be a coder for video games. Are you? Because that requires an advanced math degree, dude. And if you can't find an equivalent fraction, you're going to have a hard time coding the next Call of Duty. And to get them convinced that no, you still need academic, like I get it, cool. If you want
Yeah.
to go design video games, go for it. I have no problem with that, but you need an advanced degree for that.
So do you build them up and go, wait, let's get you ready for this coding
Yeah,
and say like, is that what
sure.
you do? That's how you like connect math to their coding dream? Is
Yeah,
that yeah.
yeah. And YouTube is a big thing, obviously. TikTok is big, Instagram's big, but they see these people that are clearly doing well, or at least portraying the image that they're doing well, and think, yeah, I'll do that. And what it used to be 10 years ago was just, well, I'm just going to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'll play in the NBA.
I
No
don't want to
problem.
do I don't want to do math. I'll play in the NBA. Is that
Yeah, I'm
what
just
it
gonna make the NBA anyway. I'll make it. Of course I will. And you read them all the stats, the number of kids that go into college football and the number of college football players that make it to the NFL, and they go, well, I'll just be one of those.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I had a class 7, 8 years ago, and I had 6 future NFLers. 6.
Yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
team.
Uh-huh. So
That's a tough
I
one because
just
you don't want to crush their dreams either.
I
But you
really
got,
don't.
yeah.
But realism has to play a part. Well, what's your second option? I usually
Yeah.
ask. And they go, what? What do you mean second? No, I'm going to be a YouTuber. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then. And they don't know the work that those people put into it. They put a huge amount of work into that.
Yeah.
They
I
didn't get there
heard
by
that guy.
accident.
No, it was like I heard that Mr. Beast guy was like 1,000 days straight with four of
Yeah.
his friends for 10 to 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like insane work ethic.
Completely,
I'm sure
completely
that,
committed, right?
yeah, and I'm
And
sure
if
they
I
got
can't get a kid to turn their homework in, they're not going to do that.
yeah.
So I want to say there's something involved with like ease
Mm. Yeah.
and something involved with like not having to develop that grit that
Mm.
you need to get to those levels of whatever you're going to pick,
Yeah.
and that it'll just happen. It's just going to happen, Luke. I'm just going to be that person. Like they
Yeah.
don't get, you're not, you have to earn it. You have to go and get it.
Yeah.
So
That's a tough one to really.
that's how I see it. Yeah, there's some negative connotations too. There's some ridiculous TikTok challenges that kids will try, and you're just like, don't do that, dude. Don't, come on. Like,
Get themselves
but
hurt.
I don't know that I see a huge influence necessary. It's simply the culture, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they had Crazy here in the 80s, and we had Dave Matthews Band in the 90s, and they've got social media now in the whatever these are,
Yeah.
20s.
Yeah.
So will it make that much a difference? I don't know. I think the play, there's probably something to do with the play thing that they don't go outside enough.
Yep.
But my kids don't have a problem going to recess.
Mm.
So it's not like they've lost the skill. They just haven't practiced it very much.
Yeah. Okay. I like
Much
that.
more likely to playing Call of Duty
Yeah.
than going outside and digging a hole in the ground for no reason.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to be honest with you, just block that part out because it's too much of a distraction. They turn their phones off and it's not a problem,
Yeah.
you know?
That
And
comes back to the boundaries thing, doesn't it?
yeah, and the other thing I would say, honestly, that it does influence is bedtime.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of sleepy kids because for technology reasons, video games, social media, phones, tablets, all of that, they're not in bed until 1, 2.
Can't even imagine.
I I don't know how they do it. They don't.
They don't.
I mean, I've got yawns I could park a car in, you know. Go to bed earlier, man. Just try 9:30. Just
Yes.
9:30. You'll
Yeah.
be fine. So, and then again, it just comes back to how we started this conversation, right? It starts with the parents.
Yeah.
I don't care if you go on social media. I don't care if you play video games. Just do it balanced.
Yeah.
The Greeks had it right. Moderation. Everything in moderation.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. So,
yeah.
I'm not anti any of it, really. Just it has to be balanced. And if it isn't,
Just anything becomes a poison in
Yeah.
a big dose, right? It's just
yeah. Same for academics, I think. I think you can do too much. If you
Yep.
don't give yourself a break, if you don't go and do something else, then you end up with really high stressed, tense kids that panic when they get one thing wrong.
Yeah.
That's unhealthy, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
So gotta be balanced, right? Balance it out.
Yeah, that's a good way. Good way to wrap up. I'll
Right?
Yeah, it was really great speaking to you, Stuart, and I really
Anytime, Luke.
yeah, I really appreciate your time, and I
Of course.
feel like we could chat for hours and more. It was really good.
Whatever you want.
Yeah. Well,
If it helps, whenever you want.
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah. For me, it's just more so I'm definitely personally curious, just to take your perspectives, and you've got a lot of good ones. You know, you're not just what people think is just a teacher. You're not. You're a psychology major. You're a high level mathematic person. You're a teacher. You're a parent. You've got a lot of experience, and you have the most important thing for me is the driving passion to really make a difference in the next generation, which is a part of what my mission is too. And Jen and my mission is, and it's just really cool to learn from you and
even if it just helped people know that we're just to humanize everything, right?
Yeah,
because there's so much stuff in the media, there's so much belief in all these different things.
Yes.
That ultimately we're just humans doing your best to train other humans.
Yeah.
You know,
and you're competent humans more than what the media gives you credit for, in my perspective.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's always a thing, right? But the minority always tends to get the
bad eggs get the
yeah, they do. And so instead of seeing all this great stuff going on, and there's a lot of good going on. There's a lot broken too, right? But
yeah,
you can't fix that, so you just go in and do what you can.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing.
Yeah, doing our best.
Trying to figure out balance, trying to figure out how to help, trying to figure out how to fix, trying to help, trying to do something, right?
Yeah, just trying to do what we can.